I managed to get a 12-round unanimous decision over Luis Concepcion to become the new WBA Super Flyweight champion. Concepcion wound up actually not making weight. He weighed in at 2.7 pounds initially over the 115-pound limit. He came back only lost, I believe it was zero point 0.3 pounds off of that, so he was basically about 117 and a half. Khalid Yafai made the weight pretty handily, 114 and a half. But by the time they got in there, just the it looked like the weight kind of told the tale of this fight in a certain fashion. Basically, Concepcion, I don't think really looked as sharp as he's been in the past. He definitely looked pretty sluggish, pretty slow to start out, and just not as sharp or accurate as he's prone to being when he's in truly optimal shape. Kayafai, on the other hand, looked as good as ever. I mean, he looked very sharp. Very quick, especially with the left hooks, the left hook combinations. He was able to catch Concepcion after a tough early couple of first rounds where the left hook was mostly hitting Concepcion's glove. Eventually, as Concepcion's right hand started to kind of drop a little bit lower, he was able to find a good home up top for that left hook. And the left hook to the body was working pretty damn well. It paid a lot of dividends over the course of the fight. Personally, I wound up only giving Concepcion one round. I gave him, I believe it was the fifth round of the 12. Yafai also managed to get a knockdown. I believe it was in the 10th round, if I'm remembering correctly. But it wasn't really a knockdown. Their feet were crossed up, and Yafai basically pushed up against Concepcion's glove, which was up against his face, and Concepcion went down. The ref called it a knockdown, but that was not a punch, and it really shouldn't have been called a knockdown. But regardless of that, it was pretty much the tale had been told by that point in time. Yafai had pretty much managed to kind of bully Concepcion. He was holding a lot. That's definitely something that he's not going to be able to get away with against like the very elite fighters of the super flyweight division. But he was able to pull it off. In his hometown against, or his home country rather, against a champion that wasn't necessarily in the best of shape and the guy that was probably the weakest title holder at the weight class. So at the very least, Yafai has kind of infused a little bit better skill overall into the weight class in terms of the title picture. Concepcion had managed to, of course, defeat Kohei Kono to unify the WBA titles, the super and the regular. He had the regular before. Kono had the super. Managed to unify against Kono a few months back. And so now here with Yafai has the full title. He has the full WBA Super Flyweight Championship. So from here on out, it's going to be interesting to see if he winds up fighting domestically, maybe makes a voluntary defense or two, or if he goes right after the bigger names in the division, the top fighters of the division. I'm thinking it's probably going to be more the former than the latter, especially because some of the top fighters are already kind of in their own circumstances, trying to fight off mandatories or what have you. Of course, Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez seems most likely to be fighting a rematch with Carlos Cuadras, although the Naoya Inoue fight is always out there. Naoya Inoue, incidentally, is going to be fighting Kohei Kono, the aforementioned Kohei Kono, on New Year's, on December 31st. So that's going to be a very interesting fight. Another good kind of marker for exactly where Inoue's quality is at in relation to some of the other champions, considering Kono Concepcion were about even level. Concepcion managed to get a close nod over Kono, and then of course Yafai managed to pretty cleanly defeat Luis Concepcion. So Inoue definitely has something to show, something to prove against Kono, just as far as relational terms get. Of course, he still does have really the most probably impressive win just overall in the division. Just the way he blew out Omar Narvaez a couple years ago. Although that win is a couple years old, not necessarily quite as impressive as, for instance, the overall skill level and ability level that was on display in the Roman Gonzalez versus Carlos Cuadras fight. Ostensibly two pound for pound level talents really going in there and giving us a fight of the year candidate. It's like people tend to harken back to of like the 80s and the 70s of like two great fighters fighting each other and putting on a great fight. Um, if I will be looking forward to those type of fights, Inoue will be looking forward to those type of fights. Joran Akas, the IBF champion, will definitely be looking forward to those type of fights. Otherwise, I mean, of course, Yafai will most likely, if anything else, try to go down the WBA rankings, just try to pick off some guys. I know Rex Cho is out there, Bob Arum's prospect out of Hong Kong. I would favor Yafai over Rex Cho. Cho is a pretty classy boxer, yeah, fairly slick, fairly good fighter. But he strikes me as just being a little bit fragile. Like he doesn't really seem to have the overall strength and determinability in there, like to really be able to muscle guys around the way that Yafai was able to kind of muscle Concepcion around. I mentioned the clinches earlier, and a big part of that is just physical strength. Yafai, is a pretty physically big, strong fighter for the super flyweight division. He's a guy that's campaigned all the way as high as featherweight before. So he's a guy that's managed to kind of taper down to 115 after a while. It's anyone's guess as to how long he's going to be able to maintain 115 pounds as his weight class. But I mean, as long as he's there, I'm sure he'll make for a pretty interesting show, especially if he chooses to fight the truly top names. Because outside of the guys that I mentioned, the Inoues, the Ancases, the Gonzalezes, the Quadrases, maybe Cesar Rungvisai tossed in there, and Juan Francisco Estrada, who managed to make his debut at 115 recently. It's really hard for me to picture Yafai taking a loss. I mean, it's entirely possible as well that they might make a couple of matchups domestically in the United Kingdom. I mean, you got Jamie Conlon out there, you got Andrew Selby out there. A couple of high prospect, slash fringe contenders on the rise in the super flyweight division. Maybe even Charlie Edwards. Of course, Charlie Edwards coming off the tough defeat in getting battered basically by Jamiel Casimero. Or who knows, maybe Yafai will fight Casimero. Maybe try to kind of get a little bit of one-upsmanship on his countryman, on Charlie Edwards, and basically say like, hey, Charlie Edwards couldn't beat this guy. Well, I'm going to go in there and beat him. So, the UK audience is already familiar with Casimero, the way that he just, handed Charlie Edwards his ass. So maybe that would be a good fight. And I think that would be a tremendous fight. I mean, Casimero's, of course, also coming off that great win, brilliant knockout victory over I'm Not Wrong, who was somewhat of a boogeyman by and large, or at least a lot of people considered him that at flyweight. Casimero managed to go in there in the rematch and take him out, and it was a bit of an upset and a bit of a entertaining knockout that was kind of a come from behind knockout as well. I thought Wrong was winning that fight until Casimero managed to lower the boom on him. But I mean, those guys I think would be very, very good fights for Yafai. Otherwise, I mean, there's a few other guys out there that he could potentially fight that are rated highly in the WBA. Toshiki Garashi, Norosinko Kijim, a couple of good fighters, but guys who I would still favor Yafai over overall. Maybe even David Carmona. If he was to fight David Carmona, I think that would be an excellent test of Yafai's abilities. David Carmona was able to really hang in there, just kind of bully Naoya Inoue at times. And he took a lot of shots from Inoue, and just he didn't relent. He went after him the full 12 rounds, and even though Inoue won that fight clearly, Carmona gave him something to think about just about every round of that fight, and it was really an impressive win for Inoue, in spite of the fact that Carmona was just physically just nonstop attacking him. So I think that a fighter like him would be an excellent way to really continually test Yafai's overall quality as a boxer, and to hit maybe a little bit of his physicality as well in terms of strength and size is concerned. But that's pretty much all I got to say about Kal Yafai. Good win for him. But one thing I gotta mention about the commentators, I don't know what they were talking about when they were saying that the United Kingdom has a world champion in every division. I don't know where that came from, because I know for a fact that they have no champions at 108, at 105, at 112, at 122, and matter of fact, I don't even think they have one no, they don't have one at 154 either. So I'm not exactly sure. Matter of fact, you know what? I don't even think they don't have one at 130 either. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know where that came from, but I felt need to mention it, just because I don't. It's one thing to have pride and everything, and I get that, but I mean, come on, you don't have to lie in order to try and bolster the accomplishments that you got. What the UK has already has been pretty tremendous and very 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 upworthy, basically. Just a good accomplishment overall for all the fighters that have managed to represent and show and prove and do the damn thing. But yeah, that's gonna be all for this video about Yafai and Concepcion, and a good one for Yafai. I'm hoping that he fights some of the guys that are named. As for Concepcion, I'm wondering if he's going to be able to make 115 in the future, or if he might be campaigning at 118 in the future. I don't know. 118, I'm not overly excited about his chances there, though, especially in light of the way that he was kind of bullied by Yafai. I don't think that he's gonna really stand much of a chance against the guys like Tapales and McDonald, Warren, and Yamanaka up at 118. You know, guys that are not just physically very good, but also pretty excellent boxers, albeit on differing levels. You know, I'd say Yamanaka head and shoulders is the clear class of that division. But the others are definitely no walk in the park either. So that's all for this one, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.